Give us 60 minutes and we'll give you Nelson Radio every Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. on KTLK AM 1150. With 29 years in the mortgage business and an array of top-level guests visiting the show, Nelson is in a unique position to bring you cutting-edge information on real estate, business, finance, and law. If you have any questions for Nelson or any of his guests, give him a call at 888-888-2136. That's 888-888-2136. Or check him out online at nelsonradio.com.
Nelson Radio.
You're listening to Nelson Radio. This segment brought to you by Insurance Incorporated.
Welcome back to Nelson Radio, right here on KTLK AM 1150. It's really an important show to me, and I think that in the contrast of there's so much negative everywhere we turn, and I just know how it's another weight, another weight, another weight.
It's true.
And the consumer, the general homeowner out there, the home buyer, feels that weight. I hear that when I hear people going through home buying and home selling transactions, and there's just a burden out there. Is it the right time? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Kind of concern.
And you're coming at it from a different place than we are, because we're all on the sales side of the actual transaction, and you're doing the loans, and you're getting that frustration from the buyers who are having trouble getting qualified. And I know that you are incredibly thorough. I know you get all the paperwork done. I know you. And so you have everything you have hand in a perfect package. But there are a lot of lenders out there who don't. And it's hard, especially when you're talking about FHA and VA. It is. And even though they're given explicit instructions as to what they need to provide, it's frustrating. It's really frustrating out there.
We're with Beth Stein, my beautiful co-host from Coldwell Banker. You can reach us direct, 888-888-2136. That's 888-888-2136. It's an easy number to remember. Nothing challenging here. 888-888-2136. I just like saying it fast. And you can click through at nelsonradio.com to avoid a lot of the headache that happens in real estate. Want to encourage you to click through to our e-guide, 8 buyer mistakes to avoid. And it just provides a perfect roadmap of things not to fumble and stumble on. We're going into this next segment with a duo out of Orange County, Len Herman and Scott White from Keller Williams down in Mission Viejo. And I want to welcome you both to the show. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
And I wanted to open it up with that question. I want to share with our listeners that you are leading the charge for OCAR, the Orange County Association of Realtors. And we were talking on the way up, Len, about your involvement. And really what I wanted to center in on, just on the legislative front to open this segment, what's around the corner or what's at risk from a legislative standpoint?
Rob, thanks a lot. We've Orange County Association of Realtors, I'm so fortunate this year to have been named the president of the association for 2013. And one of the big things that we're seeing this year that became a problem is FHA loans. As your last guest, Alexander Villa, was talking about, the marketplace depends on young families coming in and buying the starter homes. Okay. In Orange County, those starter homes, more likely than not, are condominiums. And the loan that's going to work for that first-time buyer is generally an FHA loan. Last year, the FHA decertified all of the condominium projects, leaving it to the HOAs and their management companies to get recertified. And it became an onerous task with a lot of personal liability for the individual signing the documents.
So that ball got dropped, I would think, by a lot of people too.
Well, the ball didn't get picked up. The biggest problem was it did get dropped, but it intentionally got left on the field because a lot of the homeowners associations thought that the FHA buyer wasn't the buyer they wanted moving into that project.
Where did this become a good idea? I mean, and this is important for our home buyers. Those are people that are out there looking at condominiums as consideration for their first home. But okay, so they got decertified. I don't care. I'm a buyer. I want to live in this subdivision. What's it mean to them?
Well, it means when you go to get a loan, and if you don't have a lot of money to put down, FHA has always been one of those great opportunities for that first-time buyer, and it's gone now. So the condominium complex has to get recertified on their own. Orange County Association of Realtors, through our Housing and Community Affairs Committee, put together a task force to work with FHA and VA to get these certifications back. So we've been working with the homeowners associations. We've been working with the management companies to get these various condominium projects recertified with the FHA. We've had some early successes, and we're building upon those early successes. And they're seeing that it's not that difficult or onerous of a task to get recertified. And so we're having good results.
Beth, Scott, it just surprises me. This seems to me politically in the category of where dumb meets dumber. Where does this become a good idea to turn things upside down like this? The FHA financing, like you said, Len, is critical for the first-time home buyer with just such a small down payment that it allows for.
I mean, the whole thing has been really, I think that this last downturn in the marketplace was so severe and such a shock. And I think that everybody was backpedaling and trying to do everything they could to show the world that they were trying to create a float. And now, thank God, today, Ben Bernanke came out and said that their feds are going to continue to get this economic stimulus going for us, for the housing industry, because at the end of the day, if our housing industry isn't on the upswing, then the rest of the economy isn't either.
Exactly. Another risk out there is a piece of legislation that you referenced, SB 30. Tell us about that.
It deals with phantom income on a short sale. When the bank forgives the debt owed by a borrower, the borrower still owes income tax on that. The federal government put a halt to that and is not taxing that phantom income. The state of California has not yet approved SB 30, which California Association of Realtors has promoted, and they tied it to another bill, SB 391, which increases recording fees, and the state gets a piece of the recording fee. And it was kind of, if you want the good, you have to take the bad with it. But the legislature in California didn't do anything with it this summer, so it's still hanging out there. That means if somebody has $100,000 of debt forgiven on their loan on a short sale, they have an income tax liability on that $100,000 for the state of California. The federal government, fortunately, has waived it.
You lose for the sake of losing. I mean, if you're unfortunate enough to be in that position where you're selling your home on a short sale and you're getting nothing out of it, you've lost your own equity position, now to turn around and be handed a bill, thanks so much, here's a tax liability for getting nothing out of this sale. How does that make sense?
A lot of it is also purchase money versus refi, and the state wants to make sure that you didn't take money out of it, and that's part of it. But the interesting thing is that for years and years and years, the state followed along with what the feds were doing. It was just a slightly different number. And now it hasn't been responded to, hasn't been continued, and it's rough. It's still rough out there for a lot of people.
Legislative confusion. We're going to clear the air here. Scott, when we come back, I'm going to ask you specifically, because I'm confused. Is it a buyer or a seller's market? A buyer or a seller's market. Hang with us. You can reach us direct, 888-888-2136. Click through to nelsonradio.com. Grab our e-guide, the 8 buyer mistakes you need to avoid. That'll be waiting for you. 888-888-2136. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Nelson Radio. This segment brought to you by Insurance Incorporated. You're listening to Nelson Radio. This segment brought to you by Academy Mortgage.
You're with Nelson Radio right here on KTLK AM 1150. We've been talking with Len Herman, the president of the Orange County Association of Realtors, and his real estate partner, Scott White, teamed up at Keller Williams Mission Viejo. And one of the listener questions that had actually come in, we talked a little bit about it as we rode up to Burbank together, is on whether we're in a buyer or a seller's market. And if you're out there, if you're looking at buying real estate or you're looking at selling real estate, here's where you need to clear up the confusion, because it seems to me that buyers are looking to steal property and sellers are looking to double the price of where current values are. It doesn't seem to be one or the other. What are your thoughts?
Well, you just stole my thunder here. But
good. Hit me. I answered my own question. Let's move on.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Thanks for being with us, Scott.
What I'm seeing right now is it seems that it's neither a buyer's market or a seller's market. It's both.
A normal market?
Yeah, it's equilibrium.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, what we're seeing is sellers that don't know it's equilibrium, buyers that don't know that yet either.
That's right.
So then that wouldn't make it a normal market, would it?
Well, I think what we've got is you've got a lot of ambitious sellers out there who are seeing homes in their neighborhoods go for such high prices. They think they can throw a number on there and it's going to stick against the wall.
Yeah, so a lot of the homes we're seeing out there right now are the overpriced homes that didn't sell during the spring and early summer, and they're starting to get a lot more realistic now, I think.
Are you seeing more inventory come on the market?
Yes, we are.
And but is it the inventory of people that truly want to sell, or is it inventory that's fueled by people saying, hey, if I just grab this phantom number, okay, I'll consider selling?
There's a lot of that. There's always going to be the people who need to sell. Homes are like refrigerators in some ways. People will always buy one when they need one.
I like it.
But at the same time, there's the people who saw their home go down the street for $50,000 more than they thought the one went 2 months earlier. So now they're going to put on for another $30,000 above that. Those are the ones sitting.
They said, I guess it was Real Trends, I think, came out with an article today that said that the units are up, I think, 13.7% year over year from 2012. As of those are August numbers.
Total number of sales?
Yeah, units. Yeah.
Well, and in our market in South Orange County, we've seen inventory more than double just since March.
What about sales? Sales prices have increased substantially as well. But I'm thinking, are we not seeing a lot of sellers who all of a sudden have realized that they've now risen above where they were underwater and now they feel like it's time to take advantage?
We're seeing price reductions. We're seeing fewer multiple offers. And we're seeing people that are actually selling their homes for what is a traditional average. I've noticed that averages tend to be about 95% of asking price, give or take 1%. And we're starting to see that more often now than seeing 5% over asking.
There was an interesting statistic that came out. We talked about it last week. In July, there was 40,000 homes in Orange County specifically that now had some equity restored, whatever level, but had equity restored to them. They're no longer upside down. The next month's figure came out, 68,000 homes in Orange County now have equity. And you would think there would be that high-fiving in the hallways, kind of relief from a homeowner going, oh, finally, I've survived the Great Recession and I'm able to come back into the market. But then greed comes in and they go, well, gosh, and now I have a little bit of equity, but now I need to maybe make up some of the losses. And they start chasing these phantom numbers.
There's that, and then there's also, and I'm sure you guys saw this, that the July over August numbers, that August has slipped from July.
Yes, saw that.
Yep. I think it was kind of to be expected with the normal cycle, but I think that a lot of the buyers were scared a little bit by the slight jump in rates. But let's face it, we're still at historic lows. To get a 4.5% rate roughly is just unbelievable these days.
My first mortgage was 17%.
17%. That pegs you right in the middle of the early 80s, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And mine was 9%. And so looking at 4.5 or that vicinity would be a dream come true to
for a
most
lot
people.
of us. Yeah, absolutely. But there are so many people out there who got very spoiled by seeing 3.5, 3 3/4, than just pegging 4. But interest rates dropped today, didn't they, Nelson?
They did, and they dropped significantly on Ben Bernanke's announcement. You're listening to Beth Stein, Len Herman, and Scott White. Herman and White, the team from Keller Williams down in Mission Viejo. I'm Nelson with Nelson Radio. We want you to call in and get that 8 buyer mistakes to avoid e-guide that's on our website at nelsonradio.com. You can call us direct for that as well. 888-888-2136. It's 888-888-2136. And Len, with this neutrality, I guess you could call it, where there's some balance being restored of it's not completely a seller's market, it's not completely a buyer's market. Are either listening when you tell them that?
No, nobody's listening. The sellers still think that they have a seller's market. The buyers still think they have a buyer's market. And everybody's shocked when the deal isn't coming together. And there's this bridge that needs to be gapped. And we do try to educate our clients the best we possibly can. And we hope that they listen to some of what we tell them.
Grab them by the shirt collars and
educate
let them know.
Shake them as hard as we're allowed.
We spend more time educating right now than it seems like we ever have.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about this, because we have still a layer of uncertainty. We talked about this in the previous segment in terms of there's still some trepidation out there. Mm-hmm. Some people wondering, all right, what's happening with the economy? What's happening or what's at risk with the military and obviously the Syria situation? There's just doubt. We're focusing on what's positive. So do you find that as well, that there's doubts and uncertainty out there? Or is there this upbeat kind of framework that you're dealing with home buyers and home sellers?
I would say we're more positive than negative. I haven't personally seen anyone coming into me saying I'm not going to buy a house because of the Syrian situation. They're still wanting to buy the homes. I think what we've been discussing already is more what we're seeing of, I think I can steal a house, or I think I can make a killing selling my house right now. So once we get that balanced out, people are still going to continue to buy houses. It's just calmed. It's not that craziness we had back in spring.
You know, it's kind of an interesting thing where I am, and you know, I'm with Coldwell Banker and I work up here on the, you know, west side of town, and I see a lot of my agents. I'm the regional vice president. I see a lot of my agents talking about their sellers. There are some homes that have, yes, risen above the value of where they were at our peak. However, they've also been renovated tremendously. There's a huge change. It's not as if you can do a Case Shiller, you know, apple for apple thing. And so the reality of it is we are not back really to where we were pre-recession. And I will tell you, I don't think we're going to get there till for a bit. I think we got a little bit of an interesting ride here.
No, in Orange County, we're probably about 80% of the way back. But the interesting thing is, if you looked at the market 3 years ago, and we were talking about this on the ride up, if you looked at the market 3 years ago, people were doing short sales. They're doing anything they can to get out of their house, get rid of that liability at any loss they think the bank would accept. And it's just a few years later, and now they're seeing some profit, some equity, and they're trying to come up with prices that actually enhance that equity. And I don't think anybody with a crystal ball would have seen it turn around as quickly as it did.
That's true.
And the irony is now also we're trying to look for slower appreciation.
Right.
I mean, back in March, we were seeing 24%.
Well, you have to see slower appreciation, or we're going to hit another bubble, which is another thing that they're talking about. It's interesting, though, because jobs are back also. So I think a lot of people who were insecure about their positions in homes now are able to afford them.
Feeling more confident.
I'm going to come back and ask you about that. We're looking at the positive, and you're right, Len. 3 years ago, things were desperate. There was that sense of desperation, and now there is some sense of optimism despite some of these international and national influences that hit the headlines. You're listening to Nelson Radio. You can contact us direct. Pick up our 8 buyer mistakes to avoid with financing, our e-guide that's available to you on nelsonradio.com. Call us direct, 888-888-2136. That's 888-888-2136. You've been listening to Len Herman, Scott White, and Beth Stein, my favorite, right here on Nelson Radio. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Nelson Radio. This segment brought to you by Academy Mortgage. You're listening to Nelson Radio. This segment brought to you by OC Wills and Trust.
Welcome back to Nelson Radio, and we've been talking about the positive things out there, and really the acts of people being selfless. And this is something that in that last segment that we heard with Will Schmidt, cross-ocean paddling, stand-up paddling, 320-mile trek, touching all 8 Channel Islands, and raising awareness for the wounded warrior and the post-traumatic stress disorder, something that almost took his life. And I love looking at what's right, not what's wrong. And we're going to continue to do that as we have Len Herman and Scott White from Keller Williams and Mission Viejo teamed up together, leading the charge down in South Orange County. And I wanted to shift gears here a little bit, Beth, and talk about what our organizations are doing to give back to the community in those selfless acts like what Will Schmidt is doing with his stand-up paddle across the ocean, 320 miles. Does that sound insane?
That's insane.
It's just flat out insane.
Yeah, but I think it's great. I think you have got to give back. However it is, you've got to give back to the community, and financially is one way, and of your time and anything you can do to we are all incredibly blessed.
So let me flash on that. Coldwell Banker has their foundation. What are they doing with that? Well,
we have our Coldwell Banker Community Foundation, and we do everything from food drives to raising funds to going to places like a place called Home in downtown LA. And helping these young kids and creating something called, working with them on the Cinderella Project and a whole host of things. On September 18th, we had a screening of Rush, which was before the premiere, and it was the film was donated to us to use for this particular fundraiser. And I will tell you, we've raised over the years millions of dollars that we are so happy to give out and spread out amongst our communities, and that's all the communities that our offices are surrounded by. And this is everything from our our Santa Barbara office all the way down to our Orange County, San Diego, and Inland Empire, and our desert offices, where everybody in our company is engaged.
Nice. And Len Herman, Orange County Association of Realtors, they have 4 charitable groups that they work with, correct?
That's correct. We have about 12,000 members, and we support Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Orange County.
Which I was one of. I was a big brother.
Oh,
that's wonderful. That. I'm so happy to hear that. We've there's actually 200 littles in Orange County that need Big Brothers right now. So we're really looking for some help there. It's actually pretty tremendous. 100% of their high school students graduated.
And I can tell you, as I've shared in previous programs, that I'm coaching the men's tennis team down at UC Irvine, my alma mater, and we have in every demographic, in every educational level, we have the requirement, the need for mentors out there. And there's just, I find the generation that's coming up, I always describe them as Ferrari bodies and 8-year-old maturity levels that are driving them, and it's just a bad mix.
Let me share the other ones we're doing so they don't feel left out.
Yeah.
We also work very closely with Habitat for Humanity in Orange County, and I myself have been on 2 different build days, and what a blast to be able to know that you helped build a house that somebody's going to move into. As a matter of fact, OCAR funded a house completely for a wounded veteran in San Juan Capistrano. That was just a wonderful build. We do Second Harvest Food Bank, and sadly there's a great need for that service. There's so many hungry people in Orange County that that benefit from Second Harvest. And we have our own OCAR Cares charity where our members help support our members who need a little bit of help.
Where life gets in the way.
Gets in the way.
Yeah, people to lend a helping hand. And you're involved with Second Harvest as well, aren't you, Scott?
Yeah, we do some on the personal level. But one thing that, a couple things that Keller Williams has been doing on that front also is, for instance, just last May, we had our annual Red Day, as it's called.
Right.
Where we will go out and there'll be 80,000 agents from around the country that will go out and just donate a day. Take it off, go work, go serve. And our local office had a major food drive for Second Harvest. So we raised or collected several tons of food for Second Harvest that one day, that one afternoon. So that's always a great day to just get out and do that. And on top of that, that ties into our KW Cares organization that we have at Keller Williams also. If I may, can I share a short little story?
I want to hear it.
I was talking to another one of our agents who just broke into tears talking about KW Cares. She had a sister-in-law who had nothing to do with Keller Williams. She had brain cancer, had gone through treatments and lost her insurance and was in remission. And it came back and had no insurance, no nothing. She was on the verge of bankruptcy. This agent shared the story with KW Cares, and Keller Williams, or KW Cares, I should say, donated $50,000 to pay for insurance premiums for this woman so she could get her brain cancer treatments. And once again, she had nothing to do with the shop with Keller Williams, but they still just stepped up to the plate and took care of that and said, just go get healthy. And last I heard, she was fine and in remission again.
I love these storylines, and there's so many of them that just don't get told. There's just not enough radio space or TV space to tell these stories, but everybody in the hardworking folk category that has an opportunity to do something. We do the same thing with our affiliate Treasures of Africa, our alliance with Treasures of Africa down in Moshi, Tanzania, and started by an Orange County resident, Rita Langland, and an orphanage that she had a vision for. And these little kids down there, right in the heart of the AIDS pandemic, losing moms, losing dads, losing siblings to the AIDS pandemic, and so many children that are just discovered roadside, slumped down, sitting down, not moving, and just giving up. And there's really just that story with little Catherine. She's one of the newest additions down to Treasures of Africa, and she was placed in the organization or the orphanage after losing both her mom and dad. She was reunited with her 2 sisters. So there's a great storyline there. And Catherine is now flourishing. She's doing well. You'll see her photo up on our NelsonRadio.com website. And we just ask you to click through to that, look at the video that we have of her, and you'll see just this bright, vibrant little girl that got a helping hand along the way when life got in the way. treasuresofafrica.org. It's been really a neat show, and we wish, as we welcome Will Schmidt back into Dana Point Harbor and his venture that he's paddled 320 miles. I want to hear the stories unpacked. We'll share some of those next week, Beth, as he gives us the follow-up of being out there and really exposing himself for wounded warriors and raising awareness for the post-traumatic stress disorder. Click through to our 8 buyer mistakes to avoid e-guide that's on nelsonradio.com. It will help you out. It'll create some normalcy, some safe and sane techniques that you can apply to buying your home, and for that matter, things to look for when you're selling your home and dealing with a buyer. And so we want you to be equipped with that as you go into the marketplace. Stay with us for next week. It'll be a great show coming up. Contact us direct at 888-888-2136, the easiest number in the world to remember, 888-888-2136, or nelsonradio.com. Thanks for being with us.
Nelson is a licensed lender under the California Department of Corporations, NMLS 331060.
This is Nelson from Nelson Radio, and it's important that we talk about a very serious issue. We had bad lending practices that led to the mortgage meltdown, but now we've got the challenge of deplorable customer service coming out of the meltdown. Bottom line, getting a new loan can be like pulling teeth without Novocaine. I've got the solution. Academy Mortgage and my team are injecting into the industry real performance and real accountability. Here are the facts. Appraisals in less than a week. Rate guarantees that can improve if the market goes down. Purchase transactions with our market-exclusive close-on-time guarantees and refinance transactions in as little as 30 days. Who would have thunk? Guaranteed rates and guaranteed performance from your mortgage lender. Call me, Nelson, an accountable loan expert for nearly 3 decades.